Welcome back, guys. We're back with Fatz Chats with Tash. How are you doing?
I'm really well, thanks. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good.
You said to me when we met up the other day, you said we've been on two podcasts before.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, no chance. No, we only had the one. And then I was on the YouTube and I was like, yeah, she's right. She's definitely right. There was two before. Yeah. And it's the same sort of setup, same as all, a little bit different this time. But each time we touched on the same sort of subject, and it's very much passionate of what you're about, what your content's about, how you help people, how you support people. This is like men and women, anybody with some sort of addiction.
Yeah.
So can you, again, for a third time, but the best time, can you let us know who you are, what you're about, what you do, your content, a little insight?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so like you said, I'm Tash. I am 39 and I'm 7 years sober.
No.
So I think the first time that we had a chat and I came on the podcast, I'm pretty sure I was about 2 years sober at that time. And then the second time, maybe about 4 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a great one. It hasn't been easy. There's been, highs and lows. There's been great times, but there's been hard times. But it's definitely been worth it and the best thing that I have ever done. Before I got sober, I was drinking every single day.
Wow.
Towards the end of my drinking, when things got the worst, and I knew I needed to change, but I just didn't know how.
Yeah.
I was drinking up to 3 bottles of wine a day. If I was binging, then it would have been more than that. Cocaine on top of that, speed I was taking as well, chain smoking. I had no job, no prospects, no qualifications. I have 2 children that were obviously younger at the time that were depending on me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't doing the best for them. I wasn't looking after myself. So as much as I tried, how can I look after my kids and do the best job? And, at the time, I thought that I was, and I guess I was doing the best with what I had within me, with what I could do. But when you're battling an addiction, and even if you're not battling an addiction, if you're drinking 3 bottles of wine a day,
that's a lot.
I was passing out most nights. I'd wake up in the morning in various places around the house, in the kitchen, on the stairs, in the bathroom. Couldn't remember how I'd got there or even how I'd put my children to bed. Sometimes I woke up in the morning, there would be smashed glass on the floor where I'd dropped a wine glass. I woke up one morning, my back door was wide open. I just slept with it wide open, invitation to anyone to come in. One morning I woke up and there was a big bread knife like this in my dressing gown pocket. No idea why it was there.
Scary.
I was paranoid. Things were happening that would never happen in my sober life. And like I said, something drastic had to happen. I knew I needed to change. I knew at that point that there was a terrible problem and that it was alcohol. But I just didn't know how to change. And I hadn't accepted the fact that I had to change and that I could never drink alcohol again. I still held on to the thought that maybe one day I would be able to drink normally.
How long did you hold that thought for?
I think that I realised around the age of 29, just after I had my second child, my daughter, that there was something wrong with the way that I was drinking and where my life was going.
Yeah.
And that other people didn't drink as much as me. But the bad things that were happening to me weren't happening to other people.
Yeah.
And that I needed to change. Around that time, I knew there was a problem. But I still held on to that I wanted to continue drinking, that I wasn't ready. And I gave up drinking alcohol for good to where I am now, 7.5 years, when I was 31. So it was about a 3-year period. that I knew there was a problem. I knew I needed to change. I tried, I relapsed, I hit what I would call an absolute rock bottom for me.
Yeah.
Although I do believe there's always a trapdoor and you can go lower.
Yeah.
You know, there were many things over the years that happened that I could have taken as a rock bottom. There are terrible things that happened, but I still continued to drink and hold on to the thought that, you know, it's not that bad. It will be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I hit what was my rock bottom for me, and that literally shook me to my core, to the core of my soul.
Yeah.
What happened, the way that I behaved, the danger that I put my children in. It was a 3-day bender, basically, that I went on. My children were with me. My children were always with me. And, you know, I tricked myself into thinking that I was a really good mum because my kids are always with me. My kids are safe in my care. I'm not palming them off with other people. But like I said, you know, the danger that I was trying to shield my children from was me. Because anything could have happened in that instant. Yeah, really scary. And thank God nothing did happen, but it could have. And, you know, that 3-day bender that happened, that was 2017.
Yep.
It was in January, sorry. And I was with family members again, so I thought it's okay. They're safe. They're with us. They're with people that love them.
Yeah.
I hadn't really slept for 3 days. I was drinking copious amounts of alcohol, and I was able to because I was doing cocaine.
Yeah.
And then that all started on the Friday. On the Sunday morning, about 5 a.m, I took an ecstasy tablet.
Ooh.
As if everything else that I took wasn't enough. You know,
That's a naughty mix.
Just didn't care at that point about myself. And so, like I said, you know, when you're not looking after yourself, you've got no love for yourself.
Yeah.
Then that radiates around you. How can I look after anyone else or put anyone else first when I can't do that for myself? I'm not going to. I was making terrible choices. So at 5 a.m, when I really didn't need to, when I was asked, would you like an ecstasy tablet? I said, yeah, fuck it. Why not? Go on.
And that's the crazy times that we think, you know, that you should be sobering up at 5 a.m. That's a sesh. That's people who go to somebody's kitchen, somebody's random house. Yeah.
Do a fantastic 8-hour sleep.
Yeah. Life can change. Coming back to what you said when you hit rock bottom. Mm-hmm. So I had Joe and James on the other day, and they was talking about, although we hit rock bottom, a lot of the times, as soon as it becomes the past, it's totally forgot about. So you could be crying, and I think they was referring to gambling, but you could be crying that you've spent all your money. You could be crying and distraught and genuinely upset that you've taken the drugs, or you've drank and you've let yourself down, you've let your family down, and these things are all very emotional, and we've hit rock bottom. But as soon as that moment passes, it gets later in the day, it gets to the next day, it gets to the weekend, it all becomes past, and it's remembered, but it's forgotten because we get past it, and then we do it again and do it again and do it again. So at what point do you feel that we get to the absolute rock bottom or the absolute peak? Because I feel personally we get to these points, we get emotionally upset, we say we'll never do it again, we say we're sorry, and then we repeat. So how would somebody stop that?
Yeah, like you said, it is a vicious cycle, and it's very easy to get into that because you know, it's a case of the chicken or the egg, what comes first. You feel like shit.
Yeah.
We programmed, I'll talk for myself. I programmed myself into thinking my saviour, my hero, the only way that I can feel better is by having a drink or taking a drug, you know, numbing that, taking myself out of the reality that I was in.
Yeah.
So then I would do that. The alcohol, the drugs themselves are a depressant. So then that's going to make me feel like shit.
Yeah.
And then I'll give myself, like you said, a little bit of a break. I'll hit maybe what I would have called, like I said, I had it many times over the years. Something terrible would have happened. That could have been a rock bottom. How many times do you wake up? Even people without an addiction wake up and go, I'm never drinking again. feel like absolute shit, something bad's happened, or not even that bad, you know, you've texted an ex, you've done something that's a bit embarrassing, you go to yourself the next day, I'm never drinking again.
Most people in their 20s, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, every Sunday.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, after a little bit of time, everything in hindsight usually feels a little bit better. So we do catastrophize things in our mind.
Yeah.
Then it starts to, you know, you rationalize it. You start to think, oh, it wasn't really that bad. You might have on top of that the fact that you're already feeling down. All the alcohol and the drugs that you've taken are a depressant.
Yeah.
You start feeling low. Oh, I don't like this feeling. I can't sit with this. What's going to bring me up? Oh, I know what will to drink. So it's that vicious cycle.
That is a very vicious cycle to have, and as you say, you say you're going to give up drinking, but then you start rationalising, giving yourself excuses. I'll never drink again. Get to the next point is it wasn't that bad. So how do we get to that? You know, how do we get to the point where we wake up and like, oh, no, I shouldn't have sent that text. I shouldn't have drank that much. I shouldn't have done those drugs. And then later in the day, you're reversing that so you can give yourself the excuse to drink again or take drugs again. And you're like, oh, shit, it wasn't too bad. No, fuck it, I sent the text. I got messed up. It'll be okay. I can handle it next time. And then we come up with the excuses to give ourselves the access to what we want to do again.
Yeah.
Do you think that a lot of people come up with those excuses? Originally, they come with this is rock bottom, never doing it again. 12 hours later, they're doing it again.
Yeah.
So how would somebody step in and be like, right, I need to solidify or concrete in place the thoughts I had earlier. I'm never doing this again. No more excuses after that. No more, okay, it's okay to have it one more time. How would somebody stick to where they wake up and they say, I'm never doing this again?
I think it's very important to recognise your thoughts, to realise that they are just a thought. They're not absolute fact. They're not absolute truth, and we are not our thoughts. We can listen in on them, and it's up to us to decide whether we're going to listen to that thought and go along with what that thought is telling us, or whether we're going to listen to that thought and question it.
Yeah.
And say, and you know, we can argue with that thought and say, you know, I could still get a thought now. I'm an addict at the end of the day. I am an alcoholic and I'm a drug addict. And just because I haven't taken a drink or a drug in 7.5 years,
still hold that label.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I always will be. There is no way that I would ever get to the point where I would say, you know, I don't use it every single day and I don't define myself as that. But if I ever said, oh, well, I'm not an addict anymore, well, what does that mean for me? What, I can drink again normally? No, absolutely not.
So if somebody who's in an alcoholic setting or a wedding or something like that, and somebody says, why don't you drink? You'd openly just say, I'm an alcoholic or I'm an addict and I can't. Yeah.
You know, I say I'm very proud of my sobriety. It's the best thing have ever done. I don't feel that there's anything to be embarrassed or ashamed about. The fact that you've become addicted to an addictive substance. That's okay. You're not a bad person, and especially when you recognise it and do something about it. So I know that a lot of people find that quite hard. Actually, that's a question that I get asked a lot: is how do you respond when people ask you why you're not drinking? And you can be completely open and honest and say, I'm an alcoholic and I'm in recovery, so I'm not drinking now. Thank you, like, for asking. Or you can simply just say, if someone says, "Are you not drinking?" you can simply just say, "No, I'm not."
Do you feel like in society now it's deemed crazy not to drink? So people will look down on you, especially meal prep, drinking, reading a book. These are things that are seen out of the norm. So if I sat here on my phone, it would be normal. If I sat here reading a book, that'd be rude. If we went to an alcoholic setting and everybody drinks and I don't, I'm not normal, but everybody else is okay to drink, even if it was 11 o'clock in the morning or, you know, on a weekend. I'm the abnormal one because I decided not to drink. And I think meals, going out for a meal, if somebody decided they're going to have a healthier meal where everybody else is having big steak and chips and high calorie meals, again, they'd be like, that's a bit out of normal. So it seems like a lot of people want to judge others for the healthier option or judge others for being cleaner or more sober. And I think that's a twisted way that society sees things, unfortunately.
And it is always like that, you know, when you are in a minority. And unfortunately, as an adult, I mean, I started drinking at 13. I think things are different now, though. I really do think things are different. I don't think children and teenagers are starting that early from what I can see. It's not like when we were younger. We used to
drink
hang around-
culture's changed.
Oh, thank God. We used to hang, I'd be drunk at 13 on a park bench falling asleep somewhere. We'd sleep in fields and on the beach.
I guess
And
that's
that
social
was
media.
normal. But it doesn't, I've got a 17-year-old boy, and it doesn't seem to me that it's like that anymore. Kids aren't hanging around on street corners asking people, excuse me, mate, can you get us a drink?
Yeah.
Can you get us some fags?
Very
I don't
true.
see it anymore. That's what it used to be like. So I would love to think, and I think that it is, that things are starting to shift. I think wellness, longevity, and our health overall, mental health and physical health, is starting to become more important than the drink and drugs lifestyle that we, especially as the British, that we have kind of glamorized and normalized for a very long time.
Many of the
But like I said, when you're in any minority, which people who do not have taken the choice to not drink in adulthood, that's a minority at the moment. So you're always deemed a bit out of the norm.
Yeah, I think as you were talking about the minority, I think if you choose a healthier choice, whether it be no alcohol, nicer food, self-development, people will then look at it in a negative way because it highlights the things that they're not doing in their own life that could be better choices. So rather than take responsibility and accountability for themselves to make those better choices, they're looking bad at you for making the better choice because it makes them feel bad about the choices they didn't make.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that from personal experience, because when I was drowning in alcoholism and feeling very low, I couldn't bear to see anybody who was thriving and succeeding in their life and living a full and healthy and happy life. I wanted to drag people down to the pits of hell with me. And so I surrounded myself with people who were the same as me. I didn't want to be around anybody who didn't drink, and I would make them feel bad for that choice by calling them boring. They're boring.
That's normal. Yeah, it's so normal.
Yeah, I would do that to people, so I completely understand it. And that didn't come from a place of me thinking they were boring. I was jealous of that person.
Yeah,
That's what I wanted. But instead of being, instead of using them as a source of inspiration, I didn't have it in me at the time, so I chose to instead tear them down, to try and bring them down to where I was. But actually it just came from a place of my own self-loathing and hatred that I mirrored on to them.
That's crazy that you can admit that and be so open and honest with that, whereas a lot of people wouldn't. A lot of people would be like, oh, well, I just wanted people to drink, it is what it is. And I think a lot of people do have that mindset. They do want to drag others down because they don't want to see others doing better than they did, because it puts their self into reflection of the lack of responsibility that they've got. So they're easily trying to drag other people down, call other people boring, trying to put drugs over people's nose, telling people to do stuff which makes them feel more comfortable about their bad actions, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
If you're in a setting now and people are trying to force drinking drugs on you or say don't be boring, how would you respond to that now?
I don't think I'd ever really be in a setting where that would happen, to be honest. I would never put myself in that position.
Yeah.
But oh my God, if anyone ever tried to make me feel bad as an adult who has made a decision to better my life in the best possible way, honestly, I think I'd just laugh at them. It wouldn't offend me in the slightest. In fact, in the least patronising way, I'd feel very sorry for them.
Yeah.
Because I know where that's coming from, and it's got nothing to do with me and everything to do with them. I mean, I would immediately leave that situation, and I would not feel bad about it personally.
I like that. It's when people try and drag you down, say bad things about you, get you to do negative things, a spiteful, bitter person, as you were saying earlier, it is a reflection of them, their choices, their characteristics. It's got nothing to do with you. So same when people judge you, same when people are saying bad things about you, it's them hating themselves, which they're projecting onto you because they haven't got nothing better to do with themselves. And if they decided to gossip about themselves, nobody would listen because their life isn't that important. So it's easier to tear others down to make themselves feel better. And I think that happens far too often. We have people who barely know us talking the most rubbish about us just for a simple fact that they can attach their name to ours. Something like that in life. And I think it's so prevalent that people want to spread so much negativity. They want people to do drugs. They want people to drink. They want to drag others down. They don't want to see you successful in your podcasts, in your videos. I knew that person when they did drugs, but that's not the same person nowadays. And I think it's a very horrible place. But again, as you come back to it, it's looking at that person and having a bit of pity. Be like, I really hope one day that you change. I hope one day that you find God. I hope one day that you change what you're doing and become a better person.
Absolutely, because it doesn't usually come from a place of that is a really bad person who wants to spread negativity and hate. It usually does come from a place of trauma inside that person.
Yeah.
And to be in that place is a really awful place, to help to hate yourself and your life and be doing these things that aren't getting you anywhere, that don't feel good, and you're stuck in that cycle. Like I said, you have just got to feel sorry for them really and hope that they can see a way out of it and get out of it, because it is possible to change your life. And going back to where I was, I never used to try and tear anybody down that was below me. It was only anybody that was doing better than me, which was, to be fair, most people.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest thing to do, tear those around us that are doing good, because it makes us feel better about ourselves.
Yeah. I didn't want to acknowledge anything that anybody was doing well for themselves, anyone that was living a happy and content life. That just, that amplified to me how bad my life was.
So how did you work your way up to 3 bottles a day?
Well, like I said, I started drinking at the age of 13. I started drinking with friends in, like I said,
as we all did,
in parks. And the first place I ever got drunk was in public toilets down the seafront.
Beautiful.
I was 13, literally just turned 13. It was the beginning of the school summer holidays in July. It was a gorgeous evening. It's weird because I can't remember a lot about my childhood, but this night I remember a lot about. We all got together. We told our parents that we were going to the cinema, so we got a few quid off our mums and dads, and we asked somebody on the corner of a street down Seaside, outside one of the shops, "Excuse me, mate, can you get us some cider?" And the first fellow we asked, "Yeah, sure. What do you want?"
Okay.
I think it was about £1. £1.50 for a 2
Not those Scrumpy Jack sort of stuff.
Of white lightning. It was white
No.
lightning. Hadn't moved on to Lambrini just then. Yeah, started on the white lightning, and so we got that. We probably had about 10 fags to share between us.
Yeah.
And we found some public toilets on the seafront. I wouldn't have drank a lot. I was a tiny, just turned 13-year-old girl, little skinny girl. I remember getting very drunk very quickly.
Did you have a mobile phone for the music to make the vibe feel a bit better?
No, I don't even think we had mobiles back then. No. When I was 39 now. I don't remember having a mobile back then. It was payphones.
Oh, wow.
And when you said to your mate, "I'll meet you on the corner of wherever at this time," you were there.
Yeah.
You didn't need to text. And
So it's silent in the toilet and everybody drinking.
Well, I don't know. It was about 10, 13-year-old girls. I wouldn't say it was silent.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
And so we walked down. We all got drunk, ended up walking down towards the pier. And I can remember that the sun was setting around that time, and the sky was absolutely beautiful, like a purpley, pinky, orange colour. I remember seeing people walk past and seeing their faces. I can picture them now. The look of concern, but also like disgust at these girls, these loud girls who were drunk in a group together on the seafront. And after that, I don't remember a lot, little snippets, but I did get taken to the hospital in an ambulance with my friends to have our stomachs pumped, and our parents were called. And I can remember sitting in that ambulance, and I must have still had a little bit about me. a little bit of rational thinking, because I remember thinking, my mum is going to kill me.
Yeah.
And she did. I was grounded for the whole 6 weeks summer holidays, but it didn't stop me. I continued to drink whenever I could. I never thought to myself, I'll get in trouble, mum will kill me, or I might upset her. Nothing. I just didn't care. And then eventually I did start drinking with my family. It was all very, back then, I think it was more normal. It was normal for younger children to drink. It was normal, for your parents to sit at home and have a drink and have a cigarette in the front room. Like, not many people do it anymore.
Yeah.
And so I was drinking with family. By the time it was more like binge drinking up till the age of 20.
Yeah.
I had my first child, my son, at 20. Me and his dad split up when he was about a year and a half. And we moved into 1-bedroom flat, me and my son. And that's when my drinking started increasing to daily drinking. I felt at that time that I was still young. I still wanted to have fun. It was my choice to have a child, but my kids are the best things that have ever happened to me. It was not their job, but they saved my life.
Yeah.
Having my children did. But at that time, I couldn't see the importance of my role of a mother. All I could see was I'm still young and I want to have fun and I want to go out and I want to drink.
Do you feel like because you had your space, now you're independent, and you had your freedom, now you could do what you wanted to do. You could drink as much as you want, do as much drugs as you want, have as much house parties as you want. Do you feel because you've caught that now it's your time, your space, your freedom, and you're young enough to make the mistakes?
Yeah. So on the one hand, there was that, there was that independence that I was completely on my own. I didn't have a partner there. I didn't have anyone to stop me from drinking as much as I wanted, or to say, oh, come on, Tasha, it's a Tuesday afternoon. You don't need to have a drink. I could do whatever I wanted. So yes, I had that independence. But on the other hand, I think I felt as though a lot of my friends haven't got children and they're going on holidays and they're going out whenever they want and they've got jobs and money and more independence than me, and I'm at home with my baby who I'm putting down to bed at 7 o'clock, and then I've got all these hours and I can't go out whenever I want to. And that's the way I looked at it. I didn't look at it as, wow, look how lucky I am. I've got this beautiful baby that means everything to me, who is in full health, who is, thriving, and I can do all these incredible things with him. I saw it as I'm imprisoned.
Yeah.
But like I said, it was my choice to have my child, but I couldn't see outside of myself at that time. I was very, very selfish.
So it was like, would you see it as your reward, as everybody else hasn't got a child and they're going on holidays or doing their bits, their fun? Would you see that as your reward for having a child, your drink in the evening, or your party, or your friends coming around, or a bit of drugs?
Yeah.
Is that your equivalent to going away on holiday, as your equivalent of a reward?
Yeah, and I use it as an excuse for everything, really. So it would be, I've had a stressful day. I didn't really get a lot of sleep last night. The baby was up, or, we've been on the go all day. It's been very stressful. Put him down to bed, I'll have a drink.
So it's a reward and stress?
Oh, yeah, God, anything. Absolutely anything. And, could you use the excuse to drink for absolutely anything? The sun's out, brilliant, I'll have a drink.
Yeah.
Oh, it's raining, it's awful, I don't like that, I'll have a drink. I've had a stressful day, I'm under too much pressure, I'm really excited, I'm happy, I'm sad. There didn't really need to be an excuse. Yeah, I've got my independence, I'm an independent woman, I'll do what I want. I haven't got my independence, I'll feel trapped, I need to have a drink, I need something for myself. Any excuse I would use.
That's been since like the dawn of time. We celebrate with alcohol and we use alcohol. Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think societally, again, like I said, it's been glamorised and normalised for you to have a drink in any situation. So it's like we've been taught that how can you celebrate without a drink? The best days of our lives, our birthdays, our weddings, the birth of children, Christmas, all celebrations, it's like, oh God, you're not going to have a drink then?
Yeah.
What you honestly mean you're not going to your wedding day, you wouldn't have a drink. Your child's 18th, you're not going to have a drink. Like, why would I block it and numb it all out with alcohol? Why? Surely these days are the best days of our lives.
Yeah.
That we want to remember them, don't we? We don't want to act like a fool. We don't want to drink too much to the point where we're blacking out. And even if you only have a couple of drinks, that alters the way that you think. You have like that hazy kind of mind. You wake up the next day with a hangover or a bit of a headache, and you are numbing and blocking out the best days of your lives. Why? We should be feeling them fully.
Even if you looked at it as a scientific point of view, that it would be the best days, happiest days of your life, you're then taking a depressant.
Yeah.
Which nobody really understands or sees. You know, one drink can really put you over the edge of being depressed, even if you're having one glass of wine every night of the week. I know 3 bottles is very extreme, considering one glass is just a little celebration.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody who's listening to this, watching this, and they do like their glass of wine because they have a stressful day at work, and it's only one glass of wine a night? What does it matter?
Well, you know, I'm not advocating to people. I'm not here to say everybody needs to stop drinking, that alcohol is the devil.
Yeah.
And, you know, I stopped drinking because my life was in hell.
And that's your personal choice. So nobody should be able to have a negative opinion on you, because that's your life.
Yeah. My life was going absolutely nowhere. I am an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I am a drug addict. And I made the personal choice to better my life by taking those things out of it, because that has given me the chance for a better life. And it's been proven everything that I've gained in my life would have never ever have been possible if I hadn't have given up drinking. But if your one glass of wine a night is not affecting you or your life or the people around you in a negative way, I'm not there to tell you need to take that away. That's your personal choice. But I would say, if you're one glass of wine, you do not need to hit rock bottom to decide to stop drinking. If your one glass of wine is negatively impacting you in any way, you're waking up in the morning, you're a little bit tired, you're not going to the gym because that's what you wanted to do, but you had that glass of wine, or it's affecting your relationship, or you just want a healthier life, and you think that maybe eliminating alcohol might be the way forward, you don't need to hit rock bottom. You can eliminate it at any time.
So I get the very much what you just said. I get a lot of people come to me and say, "Oh, you hate alcohol, or you hate drugs," because I do some motivational content, because I tell people to watch what your substances are. And I'm very much the opposite of that. If you decide to go to a rave once in a while and take your ecstasy or your Mandy or drink a lot, that's your party time, that's your day out, that's your weekend, whatever it is. It might be once a month, it might be once every 3 months. That's your freeing time. As long as it's not an issue and it doesn't affect you in a negative way, go do it. If you decide once a month you're going to go out on the weekend and, like you say, have a binge, do that once a month. As long as it's not affecting you in a negative way, and that's emotionally, physically, financially, and your relationships, as long as it's not doing that, then go do that. I'm not saying to people that you should never do drinking drugs. I'm saying that, again, as back to what you said, if it affects you emotionally, physically, it's got negative consequences, then you've definitely got an issue. If you can handle it and you do it once in a while and it's sporadic, it's not a problem. But if you do come home from work every single day and you need 3 beers just to relax, that's probably an issue. Yeah.
When you're using something as a crutch, outside of yourself, I think it's very empowering to realise that everything that we are looking for through whatever crutch we are using, we can actually get from ourselves. Like everything that I was searching for and looking for through my addiction, so relief, I was also looking for some kind of like excitement, all of those things, everything I was looking for, even like love through alcohol. It was like I felt no self-love myself. I didn't feel lovable either. So it was like my alcohol, my addiction became my best friend. The thing that I relied on.
Do you feel like it gave you the power as well?
For everything. Well, it was very disempowering. I think maybe I kidded myself into thinking that I had power and control over it.
Yeah.
You know, I had the power to choose, but I didn't.
It does give us a false power of confidence
Yeah.
in many scenarios and situations. So we wouldn't talk to that person if it wasn't for the alcohol. We wouldn't be the life of the party if it wasn't for the drugs. And I think a lot of people can't let go of that. So in my youth, when I was drinking drugs, it was, oh, Fatz, you know what you did last night? That was crazy. And I couldn't be that person without the substances because I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have the ability to walk into a room and be like, hey, what's going on? But when you do take the substances, everybody knows you as the life of the party, and you don't want to let go of that because that's your popularity. That's who you've become. So I think that's hard for a lot of people as well.
Yeah.
To find their true self.
Yeah. I remember being so scared and fearful about who I would be and what I would become without alcohol.
Yeah.
Because alcohol was my identity. I didn't have a clue who I was without it.
Yeah.
I was the party girl. I was the big drinker.
Yeah.
The fact that I could drink more than anybody else, for some reason I wore as a badge of honour. I thought it was great. And that was all I became, which is very sad that I actually, I deemed that a good thing. And I was so scared about what life would be like without alcohol. Would it be boring? Would I lose all the fun in my life? But the reality was that life was boring. I had nothing but alcohol.
Yeah.
I was hungover all the time. I didn't have the energy to go and do and experience new things. I was hanging around with the same people, having the same conversation day in, day out, and it didn't feel good. It wasn't fun.
So why did you repeat it?
Because I was addicted and stuck in that cycle, and it was the only thing that I knew, and it seemed so difficult to get out of the reality that I had built around myself. It felt difficult in every single way. The stopping, the putting the drink down, the putting the drugs down, the relationships that would have to change, my whole lifestyle that would have to change. And habits are hard to break.
Took you roughly 3 years to get out of that relapsing and relapsing, going in and out.
Yeah. But it starts with a thought and a mindset shift.
Yeah.
My mindset was very much, I'll never be able to do that. I will never be able to get sober. Yeah. I'm worse than everyone else. Anyone that's got sober was never as bad as me. If they had my life, they would want to drink as well.
Wow. Do you not feel that's a victim mindset as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a victim mindset helps you stay stuck because it's not my fault. I'm the victim.
Yeah.
And I have to stay here.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Everything is happening to me.
How would you break the victim mindset if somebody's watching this, listening now, and they're drinking or taking drugs? How would they break the victim mindset? Because in their head, you don't know how they live.
Yeah.
You can say all this, but you don't know what their life's like. So what would your advice be then to them?
And take responsibility and accountability for yourself and your actions, and realise that where you are in your life, you've got yourself to. Ooh. That was your thinking, that was your actions that caused you to get to the place where you are. But the good thing about that is the mess that you caused, you can also fix. You're the only person that can do it. No one can do it for you. No one got you where you are. You got yourself to where you are, and you're the only person that can get yourself out of it.
Oof. And if you could say something to the old Tash, what would you say to her if she was here now?
I'd say, we did it, girl. And I'd say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, because you got me to where I am. You thought you were worth nothing. You thought that you would never be able to achieve anything and that you were undeserving. And with all of that on top of you, you got me sober. You did it. You took the first step, not me. I'm here because of her. So I'd say thank you.
Thank you. That's a very powerful message to your old self. How would somebody get to their first step? If they're drinking drugs, how would they get to their first step? Is it seeking AA? Is it talking to a friend? Is it realising you've got a problem? What would be their first step? Because there's a lot of people watching this or listening to this, and they're still stuck in that mindset. They like their glass of wine. They like their beer every day. Yeah. What would be their first step to change?
Well, that's exactly that. If they like their wine and their beer, what's the motivation to change? So you know, you've got to be in the mindset of acceptance, accepting that this isn't the life that you want anymore.
Yeah.
Accepting that you will never drink again, because all the times that I relapsed, I hadn't accepted that I would never drink again, and I still kept in my mind, maybe I just need a break, maybe I'll just do a year. Well, I'm never going to succeed, because, well, what's the point? If I'm only going to do a year, in my head, my mind, if I'm only going to do a year, well, I might as well have a drink now, because it's
Yeah.
so it has to be, I'm never going to drink again, and accept that. Because when I hadn't accepted, I was still very, very bitter.
Yeah.
I was still in a victim mindset, and which meant that I wasn't successful with my sobriety. Again, I relapsed because I hadn't accepted. I would look at other people that were drinking, and I would think, why me? Why can't I drink? And I would look at them again with that jealousy that I used to look at the people who weren't drinking with. So I needed to have that acceptance, that 100% acceptance that I don't want this life anymore, and I will stop drinking. I can stop drinking. I'm going to stop doing it forever, and accept that, and start taking accountability for yourself and your actions. Don't wait for someone to save you. Do it yourself, and do it now. What are you waiting for? Take that first step today, and then you can move on to trying AA. There are many groups out there. There are other groups. There are smart groups which work on like a CBT basis. There are your alcohol services, your GP, reaching out to people online. There are many people like me online now who are telling their story, and an open and honest, which is also going to normalise sobriety. So it's going to lessen that stigma around it. You know, when you listen to people who have been through the same thing as you and they've come out the other side, that is so inspiring. Do
you think that people generally follow the group that they're with? So alcoholics hang around with alcoholics, druggies hang around with druggies. A lot of people don't want to admit this, but we are the average of the 5 people we hang around with the most. And if you was to hang around with people who don't like your drinking, so if you was in a drinking state of mind, you gravitate towards other people in a drinking state of mind. How would somebody break away from that?
Break away from the group that they're hanging around with,
bringing out the most negative side of them.
You just have to, again, make that decision and just do it. Like, there is no, you don't really need to overthink anything like that. I know the thought is always worse than the actual action. You catastrophize everything. Taking yourself away from any negative situation is only going to be beneficial for you. Many people have asked me, did you lose friends when you stopped drinking? And I would say, you know, if you do lose friends when you stop drinking, when you make a decision to do something which is impacting your life in a very positive way, then they were never friends to begin with. Let the trash take themselves out.
Trash take themselves out.
And I, at the same time, you know, the people that I was hanging around with that were drinking with me, and we kept each other in that cycle. It wasn't just them. I was a participant in that as well, and I was using them as much as they were using me. To keep me there, you know, to make me feel normal, that what I was doing was okay. I was using them too. Once I took the decision to change, I realised that I couldn't have one foot left in my old life, and I did have to pull away from them people. There wasn't a conversation that was had. I didn't need to say to them, listen guys, I'm not going to hang around with you anymore because you're not doing what I want to do. I just pulled away, and I did say to them, I was open and honest with everybody, I'm not drinking anymore. Now, just as much as I didn't want to hang around with them, do you think they wanted to hang around with me, a sober person? No. So it happened very organically. So I would say, you know, you have to put yourself first. Don't worry about your friends. You might love them and like them. They're always going to be there.
Yeah.
If you want to go back in 5 years' time, I guarantee you, if they haven't taken the decision to change, they'll be doing exactly the same thing in exactly the same place, talking about exactly the same shit they were talking about 5 years ago. You're not missing out on anything.
So true. And you see that so many times when you decide to change, you decide to move on, and you visit somewhere where you used to be, or some people you used to see, or, you know, somewhere you used to drink, and it's not changed over the years. You've changed, you've grown, you've started a business, you've become a better person, you help people. And when you go back, all those people who said you wouldn't are still sitting at the same bar, they're taking the same drugs, they're going to the same kitchens, and you realize if you didn't change, you would be doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thought. And again, it comes back to what you just said. Taking the trash out. Sometimes you don't have to take the trash out. As soon as you change, they take themselves out.
Absolutely. Yeah. I said, you know, they were sitting around in the same place talking about the same stuff. You walk in, your life has completely changed. And this isn't, again, it's not throwing shade on anyone. I used to do exactly the same thing. You'll walk in, completely different person.
Yeah.
Your life has changed in incredible ways, and they'll still call you boring.
Yeah.
Or say why are you doing that? Do you know, and then that's when you have to look back at where you were and where you've come and be thankful that you took that first step. It's just one step, one mindset shift, one accepting thought, one phone call to a group, one step took you away from that group. If you hadn't have taken that life, if you hadn't have taken that one step, and that's all it is, you'd still be there now. That's how it starts.
That comes back to what we were saying just before the podcast about the butterfly effect. That could be that one conversation, that one hello, that one kind gesture, that could literally shift your whole life. Talking to somebody down the street, reading that book, whatever it is, that one step, like you just said, it could be the defining factor, which is so minuscule you never think about it again.
Yeah.
But it could be the thing that shifts your whole life in a different trajectory.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very powerful thing for a lot of people. And to put that in perspective, if you drink all the time, you party all the time, you go drugs, and you're out every weekend, but then you have that one meeting, that one discussion, you read that one book, and you'll never be able to see the repeated cycle that you used to see in the same light that you've seen it, because your vision has changed.
Yeah. And that's why it's important, I think, to be kind. To be kind all the time, because you just don't know what people are going through. And I think, again, it's a societal thing. We have a tendency, and I say we as I'm just generalising, to look down our nose at people who are in addiction, who are, let's say, you know, when you think of an addict, if you say to most people, how would you define an alcoholic? People would say street drinking, living on the streets, you know, the lowest of the low. It's not always like that. It can be hiding in plain sight, the people that you think are thriving.
The functioning alcoholics,
Exactly. And actually, when the doors are closed at night, they're living in absolute hell. Just the same as like the people who are open with their struggles, who are living on the streets, who are sitting asking you for change and having a drink. You know, treat everyone the same with love and kindness, because the people who are pretending to be well, that you think are well, you know, one bad word to that person could tip them over the edge. You wouldn't have had any idea. The same as the people who are open, sitting on the streets with their struggles. Like, why are you putting them down, making situations worse when they're at their absolute lowest? Do you think anybody started off their life thinking that's where I want to end up? No. Addicts aren't bad, nasty or evil people. Nobody wants to hurt the people around them that love them the most. Nobody wants to lose their career. Nobody wants to lose their lives to alcohol and drugs. This is something that started very innocently, which has gone on and on and on throughout the years to get someone to a point where they would have said at one point, I'll never end up there. You know, right at the end of my drinking, when I was drinking 3 bottles of wine a night, when I fell down the stairs and broke my leg in 2 places in front of my son, when I was drink driving, when I was acting dangerously, if you'd have asked me at 20, do Do you think that's where you'll end up? I just said, absolutely not.
No chance.
Not a chance in hell. I would never end up there, but I did.
Yeah.
It could happen to anyone.
It's very true. You never see the slippery slope.
No.
It always comes back to we're one paycheck away from being homeless as well. A lot of people live in that cycle.
Yeah.
We're one drink or two drinks per night away from being the functioning alcoholic rather than being relaxed.
Yeah.
We're always just that one step away, and I don't think people realise that because they always feel like they're on a higher pedestal. I've got money, so I don't have to worry about it. You're one paycheck away from being homeless.
That's it, yeah. Take all your money away, what are you?
Yeah, I'm not an alcoholic because I only have one glass of wine a night or 2 beers a night. Well, you're 2 beers away from being really drunk, or, a few glasses away from being dependent. So we are always that one step away from the people that we usually look down on.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the scariest things that we need to put in perspective. Absolutely. You are so close to that person, and you've probably got things in common with that person.
Yeah. Yet
to make yourself feel better, you look down on others. And I think a lot of people do that in society.
Yeah. That's the thing, I can sit here and I have 7 years of lessons behind me that I'm able to tell people about, which I hope will help and inspire people along their journeys.
Yeah.
But I am no better than someone who is still drinking, than someone who has just relapsed, or than someone that is at the beginning of their journey. I am one drink away from being there again, and that is it.
But you've already made the decision that you're not going to be that one drink away. You've already made the decision. Absolutely. It's all gone.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm very much aware that I'm one drink away. If I were to have one drink, I'd be straight back there where I was 7.5 years ago, and that's all it would take. There is in one of the fellowships there is a phrase that is used.
Yep.
Which is one day at a time.
Ooh.
And I know for a lot of people that's helpful, because thinking into the future, into forever, can seem very overwhelming for people. So that phrase is used, one day at a time. I do my sobriety today, one day at a time, tomorrow again, one day at a time.
Yeah.
For me, I don't find that helpful personally, because I like to affirm. It makes me feel safe within my sobriety. I will never drink again.
Wow.
I'm very conscious of the language that I use these days. 7.5 years ago, and all the years that I was living in addiction, my language was very much in lack, in negativity. It was very much centered around my victim mentality, how nothing good happens for me, how it's everyone else's fault.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you had my life, you would drink as well. Why do bad things always happen to me?
Yeah.
I'm a piece of shit. I'm not worth anything. It was very, very negative, and my life projected that.
Yeah.
These days, I don't speak or think like that anymore. I am very positive about myself, about my surroundings, about the people around me, and about my future. And I believe that anything I put my mind to, and anybody as well, we can achieve.
Is that a reflection of law of attraction?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think that we, without realising it, we manifest our whole lives all the time. That's all we do. Everything in this world, everything that's here, everything around us, everything we are, it all started with a thought.
Yeah.
So what thought do you want, seeds do you want to grow? What do you want to plant? What do you want your garden, your inner world to be like? Do you want it to be one of lack, one of self-hatred, one of nothing good ever happens to me? Or do you want it to be full of possibility and positivity, and you radiate that out? And once you change that mindset to I can and I will, that is when you are going to achieve what you want to achieve. You give yourself the chance then to, it opens you up to amazing possibilities that you would have never have had if you just stayed in a lack mindset.
In relation to your positive thinking and your affirmations, there's a saying, I've seen it on a few clips. If you've got 2 wolves, one lives in the dark and one lives in the light, which one lives? A lot of people would say the light one, or but it comes down to which one you feed. Whatever one you feed, so whether you've got dark thoughts or light thoughts, it's whatever one you feed. The wolf in the dark, your negativity, your anger, your depression, your addictions. If you feed the wolf in the dark, your darkness will live on.
Yeah.
If you feed the wolf in the light, your light will live on. And it comes back to what you were saying. You've got to give yourself that positive self-talk, that positive self-love, that positive moving forward. Because we are the ones that bring ourselves up. We're the ones who look after us. And I get it sometimes when people say, Fatz, you've saved my life. Fatz, your motivation saved this. Fatz, you made me do this. I didn't do any of that. I sparked something inside you that made you do that.
Yeah.
So anybody who says to me, Fatz, you've done this for me, you've done that. All I did was give you the spark. You lit the fire and you carried on burning. It's up to you to change your life. I can only help you on that certain path. Bringing a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah.
So just wrapping up, where can people find you so they can get more motivation, more sobriety, more positivity, and more of your affirmations, your goodness? Where can they get you?
Oh, thanks. So I'm on Instagram at Sober Happy Tash, and I do lots of Q&As on there, and I put them in the highlights, which I know that a lot of people find very helpful to look through them. There's a lot of questions from other people who are wanting to get into sobriety that I answer on there.
Yeah.
And then I put up videos about my story, which I hope will be inspiring to other people. And then I have my podcast as well, which I've just recently started, which is on Spotify at the minute, and that is the Clear Head Club.
Clear Head Club, lovely.
Yeah, and the last time we spoke, actually, I was just finishing up my book. I mean, it's been 7 years in the making. And it goes from the very beginning of my journey until where I am now. And, you know, like 7 years of my knowledge and there's been ups and downs in that time. I've gone into that book. There are tools, there are exercises, there are personal stories that will be inspiring. And there are the steps that I took to get and stay sober and live a happy and fulfilling life.
Beautiful. And if anybody wants the book and they want to pre-order, then they just follow you on socials, get all the good content.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank
Really
you
appreciate
so much for having me.
Hey, we're out, guys. Peace.